So this month we've been talking about religion and spirituality and consciousness and what we want and what we don't want and how it all fits together and how it all works. So this past week I was down in Irvine at our Centers for Spiritual Living annual convention. The theme of which was We Are Centers for Spiritual Living. And it was an amazing experience because for those of you who don't know the history, back in the 50s, there was a split in the organization. And some folks went international and some folks went united. And we have done something over the past 6 years that I don't know of any other faith tradition has ever done. And we have come together and reunified and healed that split. So we've been going through this, what's the word I want? Messy process of reintegration and shifting and molding and truly coming together as one. And this past week was really evidence of the power of intention and allowing ourselves to be led by spirit instead of operating from the neck up. And the feel was different. There was a palpable unity that has not been there before. If any of you saw my Facebook post, some folks have because I've gotten feedback like, what are you talking about? The first night we had speakers from the younger ministers in our organization, and they did a brilliant job of bringing us older folks into the 21st century. And what they talked about was when we are intimate with the infinite, we get knocked up. Is the way they phrased it, which was brilliant because it made us all go, excuse me. And when we think about it in terms of being pregnant with possibility, because that is all that exists, infinite possibility. And the way we dive into that is through our intimate relationship with the divine, with that field of possibility. And what I posted on Facebook was, despite all of my efforts to have it never happen, seems I went to Southern California and learned I was pregnant. Which caused some discussion for folks. And it was all fun. And we're each pregnant. The question is, what are we incubating? What are we pregnant with? And that's where it folds into our beliefs, our faith, and how we show up in prayer. Because our beliefs, the things that we're creating from, create our faith. And our faith is where we pray from. So if things are showing up in our lives that confuse us, the point of confusion is in our beliefs. Now, practitioners are trained to help us uncover hidden beliefs. The reason we call them hidden beliefs is because we don't know we have them. We are all raised being saturated with somebody else's beliefs. Generational beliefs. If you've ever heard that story, I believe it's the first couple of pages in Born to Win, I believe is where the story came out of, where a woman is getting ready to cook a roast, and she automatically locks off both ends of the roast. And one of her kids is like, why do you do that? The roast was small enough to fit in the pan. why do you lop off both ends of it? And they go back 3 generations. And the reason that 3 generations have been doing it is because 3 generations back, the pan was too small. And so they cut off both ends of the roast so it would fit in the pan. But isn't that how our beliefs operate most of the time? Somebody else told me that's how it was, so that's how it is, so that's how I do it. And I pass that on to my kids, and they pass that on to their kids. And thank goodness, this guy called Ernest Holmes started going, wait a minute. We're saying this stuff, and it doesn't actually bear out to be true. And he started digging, and he started finding other people that were saying similar things. And he read and studied and read and studied and challenged things that didn't make sense and pulled together the common threads of truth in many different avenues. Now, if we take that from a mathematical standpoint, there's a thing called a mean analogy, where you start at the middle. Is it true going backwards? Is it still true going forwards? And if it is, it's true. If it's always been true, if it always will be true, it must be true. And that's what Ernest Holmes did. Our challenge is how ready are we to do that? Because we like being comfortable. Our society is evidence of that. We could have one grocery store every 60 miles. We don't. We have one neighborhood grocery store because we want it convenient, we want it close, we want to be comfortable. Ain't a bad thing, but it's a good thing to recognize how much of our world is created around this concept of comfort, and how much of my own life is created in this concept of comfort. And once you start entertaining that, I invite you to go a little deeper. How much of my comfort is designed to avoid discomfort? Because there's a difference. There's a difference. If I have a broken ankle, I can try to avoid that discomfort, prop it up, pretend like it's not there. Is it going to heal it? Probably not. It might be a good idea if I recognize my discomfort. If I recognize that my discomfort is communicating something of value. Because then I can respond intelligently, compassionately to my discomfort and avail myself of the divine mind of medical science and get my ankle repaired. And we get pretty good at that with our bodies. And again, maybe it's just me. I can entertain that. But I don't think we're so good at entertaining the value of our discomfort when it's internal, when it's mental, when it's emotional. And we do things to avoid that discomfort. We smoke, we drink, we eat, we spend money, we get into relationships, we get into meaningful relationships of which we have no earthly idea what the meaning is. And the whole point of the relationship is to avoid me. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one who's ever done that. I don't think so. And what would change if we just took a minute and went, what is this discomfort about? What is it really about? I'll bet you what you'll find is that there is a center of truth in you that is colliding with a belief that you don't even know you have. A belief that you've been carrying since you're about this big. Watch how we interact with babies. There's this little sponge laying there, and we are constantly telling that little sponge who they are. They don't even have access to conscious thought yet, and we're programming them. You're this, you're that. You're just like your father. Your daddy does that. You are so much like your mama. She does that when she's not happy too. Okay? Now, we don't mean any harm by it. And I don't even know if it is harmful. But I think it's prudent for us to recognize that all of that stuff is operating at a belief system that is so deep, we hold it as unexamined truth. And that, my friends, is faith. Faith is those places where we don't question it. We so deeply know that it's true, we don't question it. Everybody that drove here today, you woke up with a certain level of faith that your car was still right where you parked it. Okay? Seriously. None of us woke up and went, what if my car's still in the driveway? Let me look before I have breakfast. Let me look before I shower. Because we know it's there. When we went to drive our car to come here, we didn't wonder on the way to our car if our key is going to still fit in the ignition. Because we know it's going to fit. What would happen in your life and the life of this planet if we started living from that level of faith about spiritual truth? If we started walking our spiritual principle, our beliefs at that level, to where we have so deeply examined everything in us that we are clear what we believe, where our beliefs come from, that they are ours, and that we are willing to stand in those beliefs no matter what. Would you work where you work? Would your bank account look like it looks? I don't know. I pretty much would be working right where I'm standing. Because this is an evolution of me examining my beliefs. When you get those hits where you're like, dude, what? Pay attention to that discomfort. And more importantly, pay attention to what rises up in conflict to it. When you're doing your spiritual practice and something nudges you that's unfamiliar, maybe it's just unfamiliar. Maybe we're so conditioned that discomfort is to be avoided that we're making no room for newness. And maybe it's just a matter of changing our seat in the stadium so we have a different perspective on the field. Doesn't mean we have to go play a different game. I'm just going to guess everybody here is familiar with Eeyore. There is wisdom in Eeyore. And most of us have bought into Eeyore is a depressed, gloomy kind of guy. Not so much. He was a deep philosopher. if you pay attention to the stories, Eeyore and Tigger are out collecting berries one day. Tigger's bouncing all over the place, being uniquely and authentically Tigger. And they're collecting all these berries, and then on their way back, Tigger's bouncing and berries are flying and nobody's noticing. And all of a sudden it's like, what are these? Eeyore steps back. Well, they're blue and they're berries. Maybe they're blueberries. It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes we get so stuck in making spirituality complicated, we miss the obvious. Another wisdom of Eeyore. It's his birthday. Pooh has a jar of honey that he's going to bring in for his birthday. Piglet has a balloon. And en route to Eeyore, Pooh eats all the honey, so now he has an empty honey jar. Piglet pops the balloon, so now he has this piece of busted rubber. And they give them to Eeyore. Now Eeyore is at a point of choice. Eeyore can just trash them both, but that's not what he does. I'm telling you, there's wisdom in Eeyore. He's deeper than y'all think. This is from a man that has lots of Eeyores. Eeyores that wag his tail, Eeyores that talk to you. So Eeyore stares at it and he's kind of like, okay, and he does his appropriate thank yous, and then he puts it together. Oh, I have an empty jar and I have a balloon. So he just plays with putting the balloon in the jar, taking the balloon out, put the balloon in the jar, take the balloon out, and he amuses himself with that practice. How often, how quick are we to vilify something, to go to that place of, this is wrong, this is bad, and kick it off to the side. In my last Eeyore story, everybody's bored, everybody wants to do stuff. Eeyore has found him a stick, and I remembered this when I was out here this morning. I always take a walk along the creek. And he drops it on one side of the bridge, and he runs across to the other side of the bridge to see it come out. Okay? It's a simple little thing. And it may seem quite ridiculous to be talking about Eeyore, but how many times in our lives, if we just embraced what we have and allowed that inner imagination to inform us of something else that's there that we don't see. Maybe I do need a different job. Or maybe I don't. Maybe I just need to show up differently. Maybe I need to show up focused on my job, staying in my own lane, and quit focusing on how I think everybody else in the workplace is doing it wrong. Maybe. And if that's your situation, whether it's family, work, school, how much of your discomfort is out here? And how much of it is in here? Because if I'm busy focused on what you're doing, who's focused on what I'm doing? Probably other people. And would we? See, this is where we got to deal with our spiritual double standards. I want to watch what you're doing, and I want to script how you should be doing it. But how quick am I to invite your assessment of me and a plan for my self-improvement? Rarely ever. Rarely ever do we say, you know, Roxanne, you've been coming a while. Just tell me what you think, literally. No holes barred. Give me just right from the gut. Lay it on me and tell me how you think I should be showing up every Sunday. Do we do that? No, why not? Because it might be uncomfortable. They might see something we don't see. But yet, We're okay doing that. We got to bring it together. Sure.
All week long, I have been practicing courage over comfort.
Nice. Nice. And that really is the bottom line, folks. What she said was practicing courage over comfort. Courage is not going to be comfortable. Exploration. Even if we're exploring something we want to, there's an excitement to it. Comfort is this flat line, nice, mellow, where nothing's moving. Even excitement is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable in our central nervous system. They could plug us up to things. Check your heart rate. When you're excited, your heart rate goes up, even if it's positive excitement. So I want to double back to this pregnant with possibility thing. Folks in this room that have been pregnant know that is a scary place. Even if you wanted to be pregnant, all of a sudden you find out you are, and it's like, what is going to happen now? And the body goes into chaos. And it doesn't matter whether you want it to go into chaos or not. It goes into chaos. The hormones change. The look, the physical structure of your body changes. Can you control it? I think not. And yet, and this is where I'm really clear, that women have a power that we will never have. Because they embrace that at a level that I cannot comprehend. They have this amazing journey with chaos and celebrate it and then do it again. That's phenomenal. Every one of us is here because some woman embraced chaos. None of us got here without that. What if we used that as our litmus test for how much chaos we're willing to embrace to birth who we came here to be? What if we did that? What if we just literally surrendered into this idea that we are each pregnant with possibility that we've never met? We don't know if it's going to be a boy or a girl. We hope it has 5 fingers, 5 toes on each hand and each foot, but we don't know. But we love the process, and we see what is growing in us, being this perfect birth, this perfect manifestation of our heart's desire. Because that's what happens in physical pregnancy. And I invite you to begin to embrace that with spiritual creation. Allow yourself to truly feel pregnant with possibility. Allow yourself to go into that mystery of, I have no idea what I'm going to give birth to. I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know what it's going to grow up to be. But whatever it is, it's mine. And I am going to love it completely, unconditionally, for the rest of my life and its life. Because that's what happens when we have a child. Those of us that have had adult children, they're still your babies. It just happens. What if we create our spiritual path with that same commitment, that same tenderness, that same watchful eye, that same part of us that while we're asleep at night is so connected to what we're creating that we wake up in the middle of the night and go in to pray for it even when we don't know if there's anything going on with it. Because that's what we do as parents. What if we parented our spiritual births all the way through and then champion them? Because at some point we have to let our kids go, right? And so at some point our spiritual creations, we have to let them go, let them fly on their own. Just be with that over this next week. What would change if you woke up every day in what am I going to birth today? What is alive in me that wants to be born, that only I can give birth to? Because then each and every one of us becomes a center for spiritual living. And that was a big thing that I really got this past week, is that while we as an organization are centers for spiritual living, every one of us is a center for spiritual living within a center for spiritual living within centers for spiritual living. And when we get about the business of that, we will change this world. Where's our focus in our prayer? Are we praying to what we want, or are we praying from an unshakable faith in what is? And I invite you, if you are still trying to get to that unshakable belief, then you get with a practitioner. Hire them to help you find. Because sometimes we really don't know what's blocking us. That's why they're called hidden beliefs, because we don't know they're there. But what we do know is that's where I want to be, and I keep winding up over there. And then I do my work and I go, nope, that's where I'm going, and then I wind up over there. So if you're having that experience with anything, chances are you got a hidden belief operating that keeps making you go different places. Get some guidance, because that's what they do, and they're really good at it. If you've ever sat with a practitioner, they're very loving, they're very kind, and they're very skilled at going, here you go. There's your hidden belief. Now how can I help you shift that? Because we can't shift what we don't know. If I don't know I have a flat tire, I can't change it. If I don't know I have a hidden belief, I can't change it. Now here's the good news. And I'm going to end with this. It might be hidden, but you already lived through it. So we scare ourselves into thinking we're going to find some big ugly thing. If it's your belief, you've already lived through getting it. It's not going to kill you to let go of it. It's not going to hurt you to own it. It's not going to create you near as much discomfort as avoiding it is creating. We spend so much energy and time avoiding looking at what is going. Hello, I'm right here. It's ours. We already know it's there. Just introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Rafe. Haven't seen you in 30 years. Where you been? Thanks for showing up. Now, we need to have a conversation. Because you might have worked 30 years ago, but you're not in charge today. And then we embrace it and we transform it. And then we get to create what our heart tells us. Create from here create from the heart instead of living from the neck up, I promise you, you will be happy with your results. Promise. Let's take this into prayer. In the infinite oneness of all creation, I recognize that the very thing that the divine is, the perfect love, the perfect peace, the infinite possibility. And by infinite possibility, I mean no limit to what is possible, to what is probable, no limit to what is creative, lives, moves, and has its being as me. That created out of it, by it, to be it, is the truth of my being. So that infinite creativity of the one is right here, always has been. That every moment of my being, I have been pregnant with possibility. And in this moment, I speak my word, claiming and affirming an embrace. An embrace that says yes to this pregnancy, to every pregnancy that is mine to birth. Yes to being a center for spiritual living, for bringing forth possibility into manifestation, and being amazed as I meet each possibility in its birth. No longer am I subjecting myself to a certainty that I have to know what I'm birthing. I release. I allow myself to fully be immersed in the mystery of creation, to be a vessel, to be a birthing center of spiritual wonder. Oh, my. And as I hear those words, I feel the gratitude. I feel the excitement of what will I meet? Who will I meet? Who will I become as a parent, as a guide, as a nurturing force for these creations? I say yes to the mystery. I say yes to the responsibility, to the honor, to the chaos, to the whole process. Grateful to be used, grateful to be trusted, grateful to have tools to navigate that discomfort, knowing that it's impossible to mess it up. So it is from this gratitude that I simply release my word, knowing it's already complete, already fulfilled. And I simply let it be that, and let myself be with that. And I invite you to join me in owning this as your own, as we say together. And so it is.